Games rated E to M. Welcome to Nintendo Power Podcast. This episode we dig into Pikmin 3 Deluxe and have some spooky Halloween fun with Luigi's Mansion 3 on its 1-year anniversary. My name is Chris, and joining me today are two of my fellow co-workers at Nintendo of America, Corey from Nintendo Treehouse. Hi, Corey.
Hey, how's it going, Chris?
Great. And Yafine from the Strategic Communications team. Hi, Yafine.
Hi, Chris.
And we're going to kick things off this time with a game that I've been really looking forward to, Pikmin 3 Deluxe, which will release on October 30th, just about 1 week from when this episode will be posted. Now, we've all gotten to spend quite a bit of time with the game, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. But Yafine, I wanted to start with you. This is your first Pikmin game, so I want to start by hearing how you're liking it so far and how you describe it maybe to other players who might not have played a Pikmin game before.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm a little embarrassed that I never played a Pikmin game before. This is actually my first foray into the franchise, and I gotta say, I feel like I was kind of missing out. I've never, it is tough to describe. I would say definitely something that I've never played before. It's very unique. It's definitely doesn't really fit into any sort of box when it comes to maybe like a genre or anything. If I had to describe it, I guess it would kind of be action, puzzle, mix, right? You're throwing your Pikmin around, you're trying to solve puzzles, you're on this timer day type of system. So it is really interesting, and I am having a lot of fun with it so far.
Yeah, I'd say it's a pretty interesting mix because kind of as the captain who kind of rallies these Pikmin creatures together to help you get tasks done, throughout the day, it can simultaneously seem very kind of peaceful and relaxing game. Mm-hmm. But then if you're really trying to get a lot of things done and you're trying to multitask, it can get a little frantic and you really got to think about your strategy. So in that respect, I think it's when I first started playing the series, I found that it was pretty easy to get into. But then, of course, the more you try to master it, there was a lot to learn.
Yep.
Now, Corey, you're a longtime Pikmin superfan. So how did you get started with the series, and what about it appeals to you?
Yeah, you mentioned being a super fan. I may or may not own some Pikmin-themed silverware from when I went to Japan. I really adore this franchise. Since the original Pikmin released near the GameCube's launch, Nintendo GameCube's launch, I have been a fan. But I think what I most enjoy was first just kind of getting to know these curious creatures who, are willing to help you out and do really whatever you want them to do. If you get stuck and can't cross a bridge, it's like, let the Pikmin do that for you. And it's almost like when I first played the game many years ago, they almost seem like ants, right? Like singularly, one single Pikmin can't accomplish too much. But when you get a squad of maybe 10, 20, 30 or more, it's just the feeling is really great of being able to command them.
Yeah, I think the max number of Pikmin you can have on the field at once is 100. And when you have a group that big and you hit the button to make them all charge at a particular target, whether it's an enemy or whether it's just a giant fruit or something that you want to carry back to your ship, when you just charge that whole crowd at it, it gets done fast. I really love that.
Sometimes I actually feel bad about doing that if it's an enemy and you're like, it's almost unfair to send a squad of, 100 Pikmin at a poor Bulborb and they're just instantly defeated.
Especially if that Bulborb is just sitting there sleeping. But if you try to walk around that Bulborb, he's going to come after you if he gets the chance. So I don't feel too bad about it.
It's nature, right? Yeah.
Yeah, circle of life.
Exactly.
So next I want to dig into Pikmin 3 Deluxe a little bit by talking about 5 key things about this game. And the first thing I want to touch on is that this version adds new side story missions that feature Olimar and Louie. Now a lot of Pikmin fans will recognize Olimar as being the primary character from the original Pikmin game, and he's shown up in the other ones as well. And he was in the original Wii U version of Pikmin 3, but as more of a cameo role, I think. But here with these side missions, you get to take control of Olimar and kind of find out what was happening with him before and during the events of the story mode in Pikmin 3 with the other characters. And of course, Louie comes from Pikmin 2, and he's another favorite character of mine in the series. This is something that even people who played Pikmin 3 on the Wii U version of the game. This is something that'll be brand new to them. And have either of you had a chance to try out any of these new missions yet?
Yeah, I've actually I'm a few hours in now, and I've actually gotten a chance to unlock that stuff and play a few of those side missions. They're a lot of fun, and as a new player, right, it doesn't really stick out to me. That's something that maybe wasn't in the original Wii release. But to me, the pacing of it is a little bit different, and it does help me mix up the pace a little bit. The story mode to me seems like, okay, I'm really trying to find the next captain or find more fruit, whereas the side missions they seem to have a different objective, and feels a little bit more relaxing to me. That said, I'm only a few side story missions in, so I'm not. I don't know if it changes or not, but that's kind of my experience with it so far.
Yeah, I think it's a good mix, right? Because these missions are similar to mission mode, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a couple of minutes. But where you have to defeat enemies and grab items under a certain time limit. So it can be like a nice break from the main story mode, especially if you're playing some of the easier missions or side story missions, where you can just focus on a relatively few amount of things at a time in just one kind of walled off area of the world. But then, yeah, if you want to really go for some of the better rankings, it can be quite challenging.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I have played them all, and I want to be careful about spoilers. I'm personally very sensitive when it comes to all things spoilers, but when I played the original Pikmin 3 on Wii U a few years ago, I was curious about what Olimar and Louis were up to, since, as you mentioned, Chris, they did have a little bit more of a cameo role there. So it's really, as being a fan of the series since 2001, it's great to see what these characters were up to on the planet PNF 404 before, kind of during and after the Copites, Alf, Brittany, and Charlie got started on their adventures. So yeah, it's great to control Captain Olimar again, right? He was the original the original captain.
I know, and he's the one that fans of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate can play as Captain Olimar in that game as well. And for a lot of people, that might have been their first introduction to the Pikmin franchise. And in a way, it's somewhat similar. Certainly in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, you use Pikmin to kind of throw at the bad guys and kind of do your work for you. So I guess thematically, it's kind of similar here to the actual Pikmin games. I also liked in these side story missions how the funny little bits with the president of the company that Olimar works for. I think he was from a previous game as well, so it was fun to see him come back and see that interaction.
Yeah, it's almost like that the president doesn't learn. He's like, the company is in debt yet again, and has to send Olimar to the planet to kind of help their company. So he's sort of just sent to the planet to collect treasure. You've been to this planet twice, but go there again, because Captain Olimar is a very loyal, worker for his company.
That definitely helps me put it together, because I didn't realize exactly who the president was, and I was like, oh, interesting that he's sending Olimar off on these missions. But Chris, going back to your note about Super Smash Bros. 2, that actually is my first experience with Captain Olimar, and now that I'm playing this Pikmin 3 Deluxe, it's all kind of clicking in my head now. It's like that's why Captain Olimar does that. That's why he does that. And I will say one of my favorite things about it so far is hearing them talk in the gibberish type language that they're talking in. I think I have a laugh every time I hear it.
Yeah, especially Olimar. He has a much deeper voice than I would have guessed.
He does. Yeah, that was definitely something that stuck out to me.
All right, so next on my list of key things I want to talk about are the multiplayer modes. Now, we've touched on this just a little bit, but Pikmin 3 Deluxe adds the ability to play split-screen co-op in story modes. You can play through the entirety of story mode with 2 players now if you want. And I haven't had a chance to try this myself, but Corey, I got to imagine that if you've got 2 people tackling these story mode missions, that there'll be all sorts of new strategies that you want to consider.
Absolutely, and I have played a little bit of story mode in co-op so far, and I think one of my favorite aspects, or actually 2 of my favorite aspects, is one, it's available from the start, right? You don't have to get to a certain point in story mode to unlock that ability. So yeah, right from the get-go, you can add in that second player. And also at any point in the game, it's sort of drop in, drop out. So, if you have somebody that only has a few minutes of time to help you with the task, you can pause the game, add that second player, they can help you. And then if they get busy or need to start cooking or whatever errand they need to run, they can drop out. But from a strategy and gameplay perspective, you're absolutely right, because there are 3 explorers that you eventually get to control in the story campaign. And even as a single player, you'll find yourself pushing the Y button to switch between different explorers to kind of, multitask with different Pikmin squads. But with that second player, it really just makes it more fun, so that, while one player is building a bridge, the other player can be maybe battling an enemy or collecting a piece of fruit. And yeah, exploration, battling, controlling Pikmin is always more fun with the second player. So
Yeah, and I have had a chance with mission mode to play co-op with my son, and that was fun because, like you said, a skilled player can kind of switch between captains even when playing by themselves and kind of multitask that way. But I found it to be extra fun, kind of just talking and coordinating, and coming up with strategies together and saying, okay, you go here and do that. I'm going to stay here and do this. And that extra level of coordination, I thought, just made it even more fun.
yeah, I do think the aspect of maybe one player being more maybe that veteran, like personally, I'm excited to kind of introduce my nephew to Pikmin 3 through Pikmin 3 Deluxe through the co-op mode, so I can kind of help guide him, ease him into the story mode a bit more. So I think it's a great way for that more experienced player to maybe take on 2 of the explorers, and maybe the second player, maybe starts doing an easier task to kind of. They're still helping, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like with anything. It's like, okay, you do this entry level stuff while I go do the more advanced stuff, and then before you know it, they're doing the advanced stuff, and you're both equally good at the game.
Yeah, your son's gonna give you like 5 Pikmin to like go do a small task eventually.
Yeah. Or he'll just have me stay and guard the ship basically while he gets it all done, because he learns quick.
Yeah, maybe you can be in charge of getting all of the stray Pikmin, and he'll do all of the rest of the things. Just make sure there are no stray Pikmin on the field.
I will say it
helps.
helps.
And then conversely, oh, sorry, go ahead, you find.
No, sorry, I was gonna say it as a new player too. It also felt the day system or the time system that you have in story mode. It's definitely helped playing a little bit of co-op, because it definitely relieves a little bit of that that stress for me. It took me a little bit of time to realize too that that you could go back, and it wasn't the end of the world if the day ended. And so co-op definitely helped me feel like, okay, I can take my time a little bit more sometimes, make sure someone else is helping me out and getting stuff done.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you do ideally want to be maximizing what you get done on each day, and you especially want to be able to find some fruit, because you don't want to have too many days in a row where you're not adding to that fruit juice stockpile, because you consume one bottle of that every day. So that is something you have to keep front of mind, is you don't necessarily always have to get everything done in one day, but you do want to try to check off a couple of things and continue to make some progress. And then continuing on talking about multiplayer, there's the bingo battles, which is, okay, co-op's thrown out the window with bingo battles. Now it's head-to-head, and you're basically retrieving items that are on your bingo card before your opponent does, so you can fill in a row of enemies or treasure, whatever on your card, fill in a complete row, and that means you win the bingo battle. This is where Pikmin 3 suddenly becomes very frantic, for me at least, and a lot of fun as a competitive game. It's not a mode that I would have expected to have enjoyed as much as I did.
I could probably spend the next hour just talking about bingo battle strategies and like triumphs and like memories of losses that I still remember to this day. But I love bingo battle, and I love that it kind of flips. It's a different way to enjoy the Pikmin franchise, and sort of that friendly yet frantic competitive mode. And the concept that you mentioned, Chris, is so simple. It's just fill up your bingo card by bringing up items back to your ship and get 4 in a row. And it's so simple, but the strategies that you can employ become pretty deep. And then just the trash talking that can occur with your opponent as maybe you're going for that last item on your bingo card, but your opponent steals it and then blocks you from getting that in a row. And it sounds, without full context of like seeing the gameplay and being in the moment, you're like, it's just bingo. Like, how is this that interesting? And then you see it and you're in the moment and you're like, okay, one more match. Okay, one more match. And yeah, I mean, hours and hours you can spend just having fun with that mode. But
Yeah, I like how Bingo Battle and also Mission Mode, takes the core gameplay from story mode. And in story mode, you have certain objectives, but you have a lot of freedom in terms of what order you do things or what you're going to try to go after during the time you have in each given day. But then in Bingo Battle and Mission Mode, it really says no. You have very specific goals, and you have a very short amount of time to achieve them. So it kind of has the same feel as story mode, but you're in a completely different mindset, which I think is a great way to mix up the action.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I played a little bit too, and it definitely brings out the competitive side of me, and a lot of screaming and a lot of yelling. I will say I agree, Chris. I feel like story mode, it's almost about discovering and kind of exploring and like seeing what you can get. This one is like, okay, I need to find this exact thing. I need to go find it and I need to go get it. So I really like that change up, and it does feel very, very different than the story mode or even missions.
I get more kind of emotionally attached to kind of the characters in the world when I'm playing story mode. And then, yeah, mission and Bingo Battle really sort of are fun to really test my skill limit, and they really raise your skill levels in the game and then your confidence. So I've found that if I go back into story mode after playing a little bit of mission mode or Bingo Battle, I am just much more efficient in story mode and feel like I can take on more challenges and enemies in the story more efficiently.
I totally agree with that. And let's talk a little bit more about mission mode, which is next on my list here. Corey, I think that's a great point that when you have kind of a more limited number of objectives and a time limit, it forces you to kind of figure out on your own, how to improve your skills, how to improve your strategies, how to multitask, in order to accomplish, your tasks under that time limit. And then I think you start to understand the game a bit better, so that when you go to story mode, you carry those skills over, and you're that much more effective in story mode. And so I kind of touched on this before, but mission mode you can play in single player or co-op, and it's very similar to those side story missions with Captain Olimar, in that they have special objectives. There's 3 types of mission modes or mission mode stages. There's the time where you collect treasure, the kind where you battle enemies, and then the kind where you defeat bosses. And in the original Wii U version of Pikmin 3, there were some additional mission mode stages that were offered as DLC. All of those are included already in Pikmin 3 Deluxe. So that means you've got a lot more mission mode content to dive into right from the jump. And we've touched on this a bit, but I'll just say again, I just think mission mode is a great way to have some kind of bite-sized fun, test your skills, and then you can, if you really want to get into it, you can challenge those missions over and over again to keep improving your rank, keep getting better and better medals. So Corey, I imagine that's something that, as someone who has been playing Pikmin for a while, that's a really good opportunity for you to kind of show what you can do.
Absolutely. And I think that it's the type of mode that you do want to play again and again, because there are, the game ranks you can get bronze, gold, platinum medals in it. So kind of that carrot on the end of the stick, you want to play again because you know that, if I just play this one more time, I'm going to be able to get all the treasure or do it in a faster manner. I also like that you mentioned the DLC, because one of my absolute favorite stages from the Wii U version's DLC was the holiday themed stage with the music and the tree decorations, and Pikmin can slide down the string or the ribbon on the tree. There's presents, and I don't know, that one is one of my favorites of mission mode. But yeah, since there are different objectives, you have one that is just about defeating enemies, or one that is just about collecting treasure, and they take different sort of strategies depending on the objective.
Mm-hmm. And next on the list here, I wanted to talk about the various settings in the game for difficulty and controls. And I'm curious to find out, first of all, which control style you guys are using. Are you playing with one or two Joy-Con? Are you playing with the Nintendo Switch Pro controller? Have you turned your gyro pointer on, or are you just using the control stick? How do you prefer to play the game?
I'm a Nintendo Switch Pro controller player. I just do that for most of the games that I play. That said, I have actually had some fun with double Joy-Con as well, just depending on kind of how the mood is. I tend to prefer Pro controller over everything else, though.
Yeah, I would say that's how I've been playing too, is with the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. And what I think is cool though is I think the Pikmin games have always kind of been known for various kind of control options. Originally you would use or not originally on GameCube, you used the controller, more traditional settings, but then, later on you would use the Wii Remote controller with some of the games. Then Wii U had various control options. So it's nice to see that a lot of those have kind of been brought forward or evolved for Pikmin 3 Deluxe, so that no matter where you may have started in the series and no matter what you're used to, there's something here that should feel pretty familiar. Corey, how about you? What control style do you prefer?
My preference is I'm also mostly using a Pro controller, but I do use gyro, and I basically use it as a pointer. So I'm getting somewhat of a feel like I have a Wii Remote and nunchuck almost, sort of, because I still have that pointer. I like having my cursor independent of my Explorer movement. So that's my personal preference. But yeah, I think having the variety, I think all players are going to find what works best for them.
Mm-hmm. And then with difficulty settings, I mean, that's something that's fairly common in a lot of games, is being able to choose your difficulty. But I think for a game like this, that is, pretty unique, and, isn't, if you're a fan of other Nintendo games, Super Mario games, Legend of Zelda games, you can see, I think, a lot of that core Nintendo DNA in Pikmin 3 Deluxe. But still, it's a type of gameplay experience you may not have had before. So I think that it's great that people who may just want to ease into it have the option to start off on a lower difficulty setting, and then you can ramp that up if you feel like you're already a pro and you want to test yourself.
Yeah, and those are new features, many of those kind of elements that are geared towards newcomers. So I know the normal setting on difficulty, which is the easiest way to start story mode, allows the day timer or the sun meter at the top of the screen to move slower, which I think you find you were talking a little bit about. It really just makes it so you can take your time, take in this lush environment, learn about the Pikmin creatures at your own pace without feeling oh my gosh, I need to get the fruit or we're not going to be able to continue our adventure. So I appreciate that the development team added those features. In addition, the improved lock-on system is another kind of aspect. It's not necessarily tied to difficulty, but certainly makes, I feel like, some of the challenges that you come across, if you're finding yourself with multiple enemies, you can toggle which enemy you want to lock onto very quickly. If you find yourself in a bind where maybe aiming manually is just not doing the trick for you.
Yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned. I actually didn't realize that the lock-on feature was new to the Nintendo Switch version. I'm finding that being the main way that I really or am really accurate, and maybe I should aim a little bit more. But that's really the best way I've been able to actually complete all of the story mode missions so far. But I'm also playing on normal mode right now. I feel like it's just right, and there's still a challenge too, even despite there being a little bit more time with the day timer. I feel like there are definitely moments where I'm like, oh shoot, it's the day's almost ending. Did I do enough? Did I do what I needed to do? So we'll see. Maybe if I get a little bit further in, I might even want to amp it up a bit.
All right, now before we wrap up our discussion on Pikmin 3 Deluxe, I wanted to just check with both of you and see if you have any, either beginner or advanced tips that people who are coming to Pikmin 3 Deluxe, might want to keep in mind. And Yafine, I'll start with you. Since you're coming to this series kind of fresh, what's something maybe that you learned over the course of those first few hours that you think might be helpful for people to know right as they jump into the game?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned the day system a few times already. I think for me it was realizing that you have more time than you think, and that you don't really need to really be too stressed out about it. because I want to say that it took me a while to realize that this interesting game loop, right, about the getting the fruit, and then the fruit is, essentially your life, right, and how many attempts you get. And so learning that over time and realizing, oh, I do have plenty of juice right now, and I can take my time. I don't really need to stress about like getting every single thing done within just a day's time. So definitely for me, it was starting out and realizing, okay, I should take my time and really enjoy and really learn all the mechanics as I go. And then now I'm at a point where I'm a little bit more skilled and I'm able to more efficiently do everything. And that's where the fun comes from me. Is like, how efficient can I make this day without wasting any moves or wasting any Pikmin, things like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think especially at the beginning of the game, they give you a certain amount of fruit juice to start with to give you a little bit of a buffer so you can kind of really take your time in those first few days and wrap your head around the game and ease into it. So I think that's a great point. Corey, what would you think is, once people are up to speed a little bit more, what are maybe a tip or maybe a strategy that you found helpful to kind of, up your level in the game?
Well, I guess without repeating what Yafine mentioned, I will say, first off, definitely grab the demo if you haven't already, because there is a demo on eShop that is available now that lets you play through the first boss of story mode. But I would say for the full game, really that story mode is what I would recommend all newcomers start with, because it really is geared towards introducing players to this world, to the curious Pikmin creatures that sort of become attached to you. And we didn't talk about this too much, but the emotional aspect when you send Pikmin into danger and, they may, I don't know, for lack of a better word, die or perish or whatever, you feel bad because you see their ghosts floating up. So you do sort of have that incentive to want to keep the Pikmin safe because they will do what you ask them to do. But from a strategic perspective, I would recommend the Copad accessory, which you get pretty early on in the game. You can access it pushing the minus button, and there are data files that are kind of hidden around the environment, some maybe not so well hidden early on, but these offer up tips on maybe enemy weaknesses or different strengths of different Pikmin types. Again, we didn't speak too much about this, but red Pikmin are fireproof, blue Pikmin are the only ones that can go in water, and you really want to make sure you're taking advantage of those Pikmin strengths. And as whether or not you're challenging an obstacle or an enemy creature in the world.
I think that's a great point. And, there are certain things that only certain Pikmin can do, like yellow Pikmin are the only ones that can conduct electricity, or rock Pikmin are the only ones that can smash certain obstacles. But there are things that any Pikmin can do, but certain Pikmin are better at. Like red Pikmin are better at fighting. Yellow Pikmin, I think, are faster at digging. So, those are the types of things you want to keep in mind, too, once you really start getting up to speed and you want to make the most of every minute, throughout the course of your day. We talked before too about multitasking, kind of getting good about splitting up, your Pikmin into separate squads to kind of go to different areas of the map. But one thing, and you mentioned that the pad, one thing that I've really been learning has been very useful for me is you can kind of choose any spot on the map and just say go to here, and then your squad will automatically walk to that spot if the path is open and available to them. And I found that. As you kind of explore an area and learn it, obviously you kind of learn how to get from here to there. But sometimes, the areas can get pretty big, and sometimes it's not top of mind. Like, okay, I need to make a left here and a right here, go through the cave to get back to that spot I wanted to explore again. So just being able to pick it on the map and just kind of observe around my squad and kind of check out, the environment and look for other things I might be missing while they're handling the actual task of walking to that area, I found to be pretty helpful.
I think the span of like being, good at Pikmin and then being incredibly skilled at Pikmin, I feel like it's so broad and wide. Like if you want to be the ultimate efficient, fastest person, I feel like some of those features you discussed, such as the Go Here feature, are mandatory, but someone could easily spend 50 plus hours of the game, maybe not using that feature and still having a good time. But personally, I agree with you, Chris. I get a lot more enjoyment the more I'm improving my skills at the game, and I have more fun.
Absolutely. Well, just to close out, Corey, thanks for mentioning the demo. I did want to make sure that everyone was aware that that is a Nintendo eShop now. And also, I wanted to mention that the Pikmin short movies are available on YouTube now. Some fans may remember that these were originally released in Nintendo eShop on Wii U, but now they're just freely available to watch on YouTube, and they're a lot of fun. They are very charming, I think. I enjoyed them quite a bit. And are just really, again, really short experiences that kind of maybe introduce you to the world of Pikmin and let you have a lot of fun. All right, well, now we're going to move on to Player's Pulse. This is the section where, we talk about polls that we posted on Twitter. We posted these just a few days ago, and they were all themed around Halloween this time. And the first question that we asked fans was, which classic Legend of Zelda enemy is creepiest? And the options that we gave were Like, Redead, Skulltula, or Wallmaster. You find if you had to maybe just let me know what you think might be creepiest, which one of these would you choose?
For me, hands down, Redead. I still have memories of being a kid and playing Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and every time they stare at you, you freeze and they scream. It's terrifying, and I think I'm probably still gonna have nightmares about that into my adult years. So.
Corey, do you back that up, or is there maybe another one here that Skulltulas are pretty creepy too? Wallmasters, likes?
It's got to be 100% Redead. I mean, similar to Yufine, I have those memories from Nintendo 64, and the fact that they were, of course, the graphic detail at the time was very amazing, but now looking back at them, I think they're still pretty creepy, but that scream, I think, has got to be the extra oomph that really makes them creepy. Yeah, the creepiest.
Absolutely. The scream, and then like you said, you find that you can't move, and you don't necessarily, when you first get hit with that, you don't know when your control is going to come back. So it's pretty intimidating. And the fans agreed. Redead won the vote by 56%. Skulltula was second, followed closely by Wallmaster and Like. So the other ones kind of split the rest, but Redead was the clear favorite. And then the second question was, what do you do when a boo creeps up on you? And the two options were to run away fast or to keep an eye on it. Corey, do you keep your cool when you see a boo kind of creeping up, or do you just get out of there?
I guess it would depend on the quantity, and the question sounds like it was a singular boo, so I would probably keep an eye on it, but if it were a group of boos, I may revisit that answer.
You fine?
I would agree, though I would say it also depends on the obstacles, because if it's just one boo, and if he's just heading towards me, I might just dash across if I can jump across and clear the level that way. So it's all circumstantial, but...
Got it. Really depends. Well, since we didn't give too many nuanced options here, keep an eye on it was the huge favorite, 85.4%, with just 14.6% saying they would run away fast. So it's nice to know that people are keeping a level head out there despite a ghost creeping up behind you. And the final question was, how would you spend a night in Luigi's Mansion? And the choices were hunt ghosts, vacuum up every dollar, or hide in a bathroom. Corey, be honest here. Which one would you do?
I guess knowing what I know about the Luigi's Mansion games, I would want to vacuum up every dollar, because in the games, I feel like literally all I do is just keep the the poltergust button held down almost the entire game. I want everything. So, yeah, that's probably my answer is vacuum up every dollar.
You fine? Do you agree?
Yeah, I completely agree. There's nothing more satisfying than just running around and vacuuming up all the dollars and the coins, and that feeling, the little thunk that you hear every time it comes in. Yeah, I definitely choose that.
Well, we are all in agreement with the fans once again, who chose vacuum up every dollar with 65.1% of the vote. Hunt ghosts was a distant second at just over 18%, and then hide in a bathroom, 16%. I gotta say that 16%, I gotta give them credit for being totally honest, because I'd like to think I'd be vacuuming up the money, but chances are I might just be hiding in the bathroom. All right, now we're gonna move on to Nintendo Power Game Club. This is where we talk about a game that we all chose to play beforehand, kind of like a book club. And this time, in honor of Halloween and also in honor of the game's 1-year anniversary, we're going to talk about Luigi's Mansion 3. And I wanted to start the discussion with a couple of comments that fans shared about the game on Twitter. Kaitu said, "I was playing while my son assisted. It was early in the game, and I had just reassured him that the game wasn't scary. I proceeded to look through the telescope, and the crystal ghost jump scared me so bad that I screamed and tossed the controller. My son still laughs about that moment." And then one more comment from Cosmic, who said, "Some of my favorite moments in the game were all the little unique animations for Luigi, like when he steps out of a window and shuffles along the outside of a wall. Luigi is so expressive in this game, and it's really entertaining to just watch him interact with everything." So, I couldn't agree with these comments more. I think this game was very charming, had a ton of personality, and just was a lot of spooky fun. What do you think, what jumped out to you in the game about, kind of about the charm and the personality and the animations, like things like that?
Yeah, no, charming is really probably the best word I would use to describe it. And it's just, yeah, those little moments for Luigi, right? When he's just, even when you're just walking around exploring, and developers could have chosen just to make him walk around and confidently or just normally, but he's literally scared the entire time, and there's really this great overarching Luigi personality that just bleeds through the entire time. I mean, gameplay wise too, it's just so much fun. It really is all about just like exploration and being curious about everything around you. And I really sometimes, I feel like that's always have an objective, or you're trying to get to point A to point B. But this game in particular really is about taking your time and looking behind every corner, and even if it's just sucking up some money or some coins, like that's really it's just so satisfying to go around and find these little nooks and corners.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the game really nails that kind of spooky haunted house feel that almost feels like a theme park haunted house to me, with the music, which is so good. And then the humor, of course, it's never too creepy, too scary, but it has kind of that fun spookiness to it. And then not only do you get a lot of personality from Luigi, but I feel like all of the different bosses and the ghosts really have a lot of kind of unique charm to them. And then, Polterpup, which is like the cutest little ghost puppy you've ever seen. Nice, Corey. I see you're wearing the shirt right now. Polterpup. Yeah. So, I'm just always smiling when I play this game.
I just realized also that we are talking about two games that had their original release back in 2001, both Pikmin and Luigi's Mansion, and here we are talking about some of their best entries yet in their third iterations. But could not agree with both of you more. The most basic actions that you do as Luigi, of just walking around and interacting with objects, is so satisfying, and I feel like that's what keeps me coming back. But the presentation, the humor, the animations, it makes me want to explore. Yeah, like you said, you find every nook and cranny in the game, which is a good feeling. Not all games you want to see every single bit, but in this game, I'm like, I know there's going to be something that makes me smile or laugh around every corner. Opening up a stall in the bathroom to find a ghost reading a newspaper, like, I don't know. I love it. I want more.
Kind of to that point, I want to share another comment from Tyler, who says, "It's been almost a year since I played the game, but I love the movie production floor. Jumping in and out of TVs to solve puzzles felt very clever and was a lot of fun to play." And so I wanted to use that, his comment, as an opportunity to discuss the structure of the game. It's one big hotel this time. It's one big puzzle box, essentially. But every floor has its own unique theme, whether it be a movie studio or like a desert or a dance club or a gym. It's quite astonishing, frankly, that they're able to make some of these floors work within the confines of being in a hotel, because sometimes, like when you're in the desert, it feels like you're in a desert and outside. But I wanted to ask if either of you could remember any particular floors or maybe even specific moments that really stood out to you.
Yeah, for me, it is the movie studio floor for sure. I think that's the That and for me, that floor and the garden themed floor, I feel like those were the two that really stuck out to me thematically. Yeah, when you get to the movie production floor, you're just like you're kind of trying to figure out what's going on because it's definitely not what you would expect at all. That really sticks out to me, and then I love the garden floor because I feel like that was the first time when I was playing the game for the first time, realizing that each of the floors was going to be could be completely different themed, and they were really each going to have their own character, and so that really stuck out to me as well.
For sure. Corey, how about you?
Is the garden floor the one we're talking about when Luigi encounters a chainsaw?
I believe so
Because that was
yes.
one of my favorite moments in the game of just like you're used to Luigi being so helpless, although he has this, poltergeist, strobe bulb, everything, but getting that chainsaw for a limited amount of time was just incredible. I also loved the movie floor specifically because of the puzzle aspect and really having to think about how you would solve some of those puzzles. But early on, I actually enjoyed sort of just the shopping area when early on you first get access to Guigi and you're having to use him to go into the different, I guess, shops that are locked in order to get the keys from the registers. But yeah, everything was still so new. You weren't sure what was coming around the next corner. That's the story of the whole game. You never know what's coming around the next corner, but yeah, I loved, I don't know. I've always loved shopping malls and the escalators and Luigi not being able to go up the escalator. That was sort of one of, I guess, the earlier floors that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, that was a good one. And Corey, you mentioned Guigi, and let's talk a little bit about him and also, the kind of new features and the new actions that Luigi's Mansion 3 introduced to the series. It's really fun to kind of, after you've vacuumed up a ghost, to kind of slam him around into other ghosts. It's fun to shoot the suction cup and kind of pull things back, like especially when you're fighting a boss that might have a shield and you pull the shield away. So some fun little puzzle elements like that. But Guigi was the big star here because so many puzzles require you to use Guigi to kind of go do one thing or use his abilities to kind of walk through spikes, which Luigi can't do, while Luigi kind of pulls a switch or something somewhere else. And I really liked what that added to the game. And it's fun too when you can have a second player play as Guigi.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say also going back to the charm again, even Guigi, who can't really make any noises, has amazing charm too. I love when I think there's an animation where when you're done using Guigi and you double tap the stick to return him, they gave each other a thumbs up, and that's just little behaviors like that really add character. But I agree. I played a lot of this game with another person, and it just made it super fun to play one of these exploration type, discovery type games with another player where, again, it's not about competing to get to the end of somewhere. You're really just enjoying and exploring, and both of you are kind of chuckling as you go, just with all the little details and the fun things that are happening.
Absolutely.
Just some of the other things that Guigi can do are just ridiculous, like going into the pipes that almost feel like when you put money in the bank, they go through like the tubes that are just going through them. It's so ridiculous. I love it.
All right, now I'm going to read one last comment from JP. And when asked what they enjoyed most, JP said, bonding with my sister. As adults, we have pretty busy schedules with our jobs, so looking forward to an evening or weekend to play co-op was amazing, even if we played backward. I, as the experienced player, was Guigi instead of the other way around. So I thought this was a great point and could give us the opportunity here to discuss multiplayer a little bit more. As we said before, you can play two-player co-op in story mode with Guigi. But there's also a lot of multiplayer content. There's two main modes. There's Scare Scraper, which is co-op, where up to 8 players locally or online can work together to reach the top of a tower, going floor by floor and kind of battling ghosts. And then there's Scream Park, which are a bunch of competitive mini games that 2 to 8 players can play on a single system. And in those games, it's always Team Luigi versus Team Guigi. And there's a lot of different mini games there, but 2 that stood out to me was Ghost Hunt, where you're in a graveyard and within the time limit, you and the other players are running around to the different gravestones trying to capture more ghosts than the other. and then Dodge Brawl, which is kind of like a dodgeball kind of game where you're using the poltergust to kind of suck up the ball and kind of throw it at the other side. So, that's a lot of multiplayer content between those two modes. Is there anything from any of that you guys have particularly enjoyed?
I was gonna say Dodge Brawl was actually would have been my standout. I think that mode is so funny. It's you like using the vacuum to suction up the balls and shooting them at each other. It's so much fun. That's definitely my pick out of all of the mini games.
I also dig Dodge Brawl, but maybe my second favorite may be, I believe it's called Puck Stravaganza, which is sort of like an ice hockey-esque. Yeah. I guess that's maybe more of my sports background choosing those, but they're all a blast to play in Scream Park. I will say I've had a lot of fun playing online in Scare Scraper mode. Even when I'm playing with random players online, the feeling of overcoming a 10-floor Scare Scraper and maybe clearing a few floors by like a matter of like a few seconds on the clock is so satisfying. We're all scrambling, looking for that final ghost to move up to the next floor. So I've had a lot of fun in Scare Scraper, but I also enjoy Scream Park quite a bit as well.
Yeah. I think I'm actually going to be playing some of that on Halloween. I think I'm going to make some plans, and maybe even at certain points just have the game on idle just to hear that music playing on Halloween. And, one thing about multiplayer is they really, I think I touched on this before, but they added a lot since the game was originally released. So people may not be aware. There have been 2 waves of multiplayer pack DLC. And combined, they add 6 additional mini games for Scream Park mode, 6 new outfits for Luigi, 12 additional themed ghosts, and 4 new floor themes in Scare Scraper mode. So if people maybe missed out on that or weren't aware, they might want to check that out and get back into some of that because it's a lot of good content. Now I'm going to move on to Warp Zone. The Warp Zone quiz. This is where we guess games that came out 10, 20, and 30 years ago during the month of October. Are you guys ready?
Ready?
Yep.
Cool. All right. So 10 years ago, this is in October of 2010, Nintendo spun a yarn on Wii that told the story of a pink hero and his Player 2 pal Prince Fluff. In this platformer, enemies bumped you but didn't damage you, so you literally couldn't lose. Any guesses?
You're starting us off with a softball. I like it. I'm going to let you go first.
I mean, Kirby Epic Yarn, right? Kirby's Epic Yarn. It has to be
That's
Kirby's
exactly
Epic
right.
Yarn.
Kirby's Epic Yarn, which holds a special place in my heart because it's a great first video game for kids, and I actually used it with both of my kids to introduce them to gaming. It's not only is it cute, but it's pretty easy on new players.
And absolutely adorable.
Absolutely.
It's been 10 years since that game. Wow, time flies.
All right, 20 years ago, October of 2000, Nintendo released a game for Nintendo 64 in which a legendary hero finds himself in a new land where he must master 3 different transformations to defeat a danger from above in just 3 days. Any guesses? This game was remade for Nintendo 3DS in 2015.
I got it. Corey, did you want to go for this?
You got it. You're fine.
think so, yeah.
I mean, I'll let you answer this one. Yeah.
Oh, okay, Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.
That's right.
Ping pong.
That blew my mind when I realized that game is now 20 years old as of this month. I enjoyed that one a lot. I enjoyed the Nintendo 3DS version a lot. And also that same month, Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Silver came out for Game Boy. All right, 30 years ago, October of 1990, Nintendo released a puzzle game for NES in which you could nod along to infectious music while matching colored capsules to fight off germs. Any guesses?
I mean, come on, Dr. Mario.
You can go for this one, Corey. I think we're on the same wave.
Yeah. The doctor's orders. Yeah, Dr. Mario.
That's right, Dr. Mario. Still not sure if I would.
That was, I think, a birthday gift for me. I think I had that one when it came out.
Really?
Yeah.
I rediscovered that one on Nintendo Switch Online recently, and I don't know why it surprised me because my son doesn't play a lot of puzzle games, but he really got to be a big fan of it, and we played a lot of 2-player. So been having a lot of fun with that one lately. All right, bonus question. This time I'm going to play a sound effect, and I just want you guys to guess what it is. You ready? Here we go. I'll play it a couple of times, so hold off on answering for just a second. Okay, and here it is again. Any guesses as to what that sound is from?
I don't think I
Is
know.
this you playing in a band?
Not quite. I'll play it one more time. Any guesses?
I'm going to go, you find anything from you?
I don't think I know that one. Yeah.
Is it Dry Bones?
Wow. It is Dry Bones. It is Dry Bones reassembling after you've crunched them into bones.
Man,
well
It's
done.
very, very thematic for October.
I should have known that one.
Yeah, right on brand. Good job. All right, so now we're going to move to game forecast. So before we go, I'm going to take a quick look at some of the Nintendo Switch games that just released or are coming soon. So on October 8th, we had Falcon Age from Outer Loop Games, Ghost of a Tale from Plug-in Digital, I Am Dead from Hollow Ponds and Annapurna Interactive, Ikenfell from Happy Ray Games and Humble Games. Then on the 9th, we had FIFA 21 Nintendo Switch Legacy Edition from Electronic Arts, The Survivalists from Team 17. And on October 15th, we had Cloudpunk from Merge Games, the Jackbox Party Pack 7 from Jackbox Games, Shantae Risky's Revenge Director's Cut from WayForward. And then on the 16th, there's Crown Trick from Team 17. And on October 23rd, we have Cadence of Hyrule, Crypt of the Necrodancer featuring The Legend of Zelda. This is the physical edition from Brace Yourself Games and Nintendo. On October 30th, of course, we have Pikmin 3 Deluxe. And on November 3rd, we have Bakugan Champions of Astoria from WayForward and Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment. On November 12th, we have Just Dance 2021 from Ubisoft. On November 13th, we have Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory from Square Enix and Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered from Electronic Arts. And finally, on November 20th, we have Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity from Nintendo. Yafine and Corey, is there anything here that you're especially looking forward to?
There's a lot, I guess. Or at least for me, I feel like there's a lot to look forward to. I mean, Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity, of course, right? I'm a huge Zelda fan, so and I loved Hyrule Warriors. So that one I'm definitely looking forward to, especially being able to revisit that Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild world again. Like I've been waiting for that. And I would also say, just in terms of party fun or group fun, the Jackbox Party Pack 7 I think is something that I'm definitely looking forward to, because I own all of those, and those are great for group games.
Yeah, more Jackbox is always a good thing. I would say outside of the games, I would looking forward to time to play all of these great games. But I think outside of Pikmin 3 Deluxe and Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity, I really enjoy racing games. So the Need for Speed title, I'm actually looking forward to quite a bit. I like sort of those arcade racing style games where it's just you get the sense of really strong speed. So that's one personally I'm looking forward to, in addition to Jackbox and the others.
Those are great picks. I agree with Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. I'm really looking forward to learning more about what happened 100 years before The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So that's top of the list. And then also I wanted to mention Shantae's Risky Revenge Director's Cut, because this is a game I played on a previous platform. I just love the Shantae games. It's a fun series of platformers. I love all the different transformations that Shantae can do into different forms that allow her to get to different areas and do different things. And then just great old school pixel art. So it's right up my alley here, and I love those games as well. Definitely going to be replaying this one for the director's cut. All right, well, Corey and Yafine, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
That's it for this episode of Nintendo Power Podcast. If you have any comments or questions you'd like us to consider answering on the show, you can email us at nintendopowerpodcast@noa.nintendo.com. Also, we always appreciate it if you can leave us a review, and be sure to subscribe so you get new episodes as soon as they're ready. Thanks for listening, and keep playing with power.